Hampden Park opened on August 2nd, 1902. The land had formed part of the Ratton estate until purchased from Freeman Thomas, later Lord Willingdon. This was the first park in Eastbourne to be wholly owned by the corporation and free to enter. A major feature of the park is the Decoy Pond. Originally created by damming a small local stream, the pond worked as a decoy attracting wildfowl into the area that could be used as a source of food on the Ratton estate. By about 1846 the decoy had fallen into disuse and was allowed to gradually silt up, and by 1900 an area of marshy ground was all that remained. During the creation of the park, the marshy area was excavated and the dam rebuilt to create today's Decoy Pond. Its purpose this time was to form the centrepiece to the landscaping that also included the creation of open lawns planted with many specimen trees. Routine maintenance, such as silt removal upstream of the pond, had been unable to prevent long-term problems associated with water bodies of this age. Over the past century, silt and changes in the quality of the water entering the pond led to a gradual deterioration of the habitat and visual quality. The requirement for remedial work to restore the pond was recognised by both the council and local residents. In 2004, the council began discussing more detailed ideas with ecological specialists and the community around the park. This led to the formation of the Friends of Hampton Park in 2005. The fruits of this collaboration are now available for all to see. The spring that is the source of the Decoy stream used to feed the village pump in Willingdon and flows along Spring Close. The stream goes underground to cross Upper King's Drive, then resurfaces and runs through several house front gardens till it comes to what was the Eastbourne Garden Centre and a petrol station site, which is now the Sunrise Nursing Home, on the side of this very busy roundabout. It then goes via a culvert under the road, then to the east of houses on King's Drive to a property called the Coppice on the corner of Decoy Drive. It then goes underground again and crosses Decoy Drive, where it then appears in the northwestern corner of the park from a 2-foot diameter concrete pipe. The distance from the source to here is approximately 0.68 of a kilometre as the crow flies. Project development. 2003, silt analysis carried out by the National Laboratory Service. 2004, 18th of November, Borough Council invite public to an open meeting to assess interest in creating a Friends group. 2005, the 11th of January, the Friends of the Hampden Park elect their first committee and constitution is agreed on the 1st of February. 2005, Eastbourne Park Biodiversity Assessment. Ecological assessment carried out by Environment Agency. 2006, further silt analysis by the National Laboratory Service. 2007, September, Eastbourne Borough Council Biodiversity Assessment. 2008, January, Eastbourne Borough Council Steering Group set up to oversee contract project work. 2008, Biodiversity and Condition Survey of the Decoy Pond feeder stream. 2008, February, Ecological Report by Clarity EcoWorks. 2008, October, Aquatic Biota Survey by Bramley Associates for Clarity EcoWorks. 2008, November, Dam Structural Survey by Ashdown Site Investigation. 2009, Eastbourne Borough Council Cabinet agreed to £60,000 funding. 2010, Restoration Project advertised. 2011 January, the Friends of the Hampden Park application accepted for £50,000 Community Spaces Lottery Grant. 2011 January, Biodiversity Report by Sussex Biodiversity Record Centre. 2011 OHES Environmental Wing Contract. 4th of April, restoration work begins on site. The planned project entailed work in several defined zones. The whole area was divided into 15 zones. Let us now look at each of the zones individually. Any views of the areas shown here are from before the work was commenced. Zone 1 consisted of desilting and repairing the edges of the channel. Zone 2 was repairs to the badly eroded bank and refurbishment of the bridge area. Zone 3, the edge was to be repaired and general desilting of the area. In Zone 4, this area required improved drainage of the grass area on the bank and new wildlife interaction area to be built. Zone 5. In this area the old spillway was to be demolished and a new one built. This involved a fair bit of construction and concrete work. In addition, work was to be done to improve the plunge pool below the spillway and create new cascades in the outlet stream. Zone 6. Here the main outlet of the pond was to be left as is, but the bank around the area raised. Zone 9. In this zone it was scheduled to improve the wildlife interaction area. In fact, what happened was that a completely new wildlife interaction area was constructed there. Zone 10. Here the fly-tipped hardcore was to be removed and the edge of the pond repaired. Zone 11 was scheduled for marginal edge planting. Zone 12. Here in this area a lot of work was required to improve the biodiversity of not only the inlet stream but the whole pond. There was to be the creation of new reed beds and new ponds on the north side adjacent bank. Here the result of the work done will most likely be one of the major visually improved areas of the whole project. In Zone 13 there was to be the installation of an oil boom and improved inflow piping. As it happened, the oil boom was placed eventually in Zone 12. In Zone 14 there was to be improved aesthetic enhancement and edging repairs. Zone 15. This was in fact two separate areas within the pond itself. Here the main desilting was to be undertaken, marginal edge reconstruction and habitat planting. Now you might have noticed that on the zone map Zones 7 and 8 were missing from the original contract as laid out by Eastbourne Borough Council. But during the course of the contract the Friends of Hampton Park obtained a price for completion of one of these zones, which was the northern outlet stream, and then sourced funding so that this stream, which enhances the sensory garden, could be completed whilst the contractors were on site, and, in fact, it was finished prior to the opening event. One other major improvement to the whole project was added 2 or 3 weeks before completion. This was the building of a completely new island in the western Zone 15. This enabled more dredging to be done in this area, and the silt was used to build this island. It might be worth noting that no dredged silt was taken off site during the project. All the dredged silt was used in the new edging of the pond and the island. One of the first jobs to be done was to cut back the dead wood overhanging the pond. Also, the trees and shrubs on the island were thinned out. AGA Group, the subcontractors to OHES Environmental, moved in, built their compound and shipped in the heavy machinery from their base in Norfolk. Then the work proper started. For AGA, one of the first jobs was to lower the level of water in the pond. As the water from the incoming stream could not be dammed, A pump at the outlet of the pond had to be used that was able to not only take away the incoming stream's flow of water, but also the standing water in the pond. As we were lucky and had little rainfall during the project, this was not a great problem. A couple of days of pumping reduced the water to low enough for OHES to start removing the fish from the pond. At the same time, the wildfowl took advantage and built nests in the shallower water. I spoke to Andrew of OHES and asked him about the technique used to catch the fish and what harm, if any, it did to them.
Yeah, no, you're quite right. It does very little harm to the fish at all. This sort of practice, this sort of method is used by the Environment Agency all over the country to monitor fish populations, and we utilise that to actually be able to remove the fish from the lake, keeping them in aerated water and making sure they weren't harmed in any way. Basically, what happens is the charge is generated. It's 240 volts goes into the water, but the important part is the ampage, and we use 1.5 amps coming out from the anodes, which are the bits that the guys are hatting, the prongs. They're the bits that the guys are holding, and then that goes round and it forms a circuit. The water forms a circuit with the anodes underneath the platform with the cathodes, the receivers, and that forms a circuit, and the electrical charge goes out to about 6 to 8 foot around the rods. A DC current going into the water, and that causes the fish to involuntarily swim towards the electrical charge. And that charge, you then use that to guide the fish to the netsman. The netsman can take them out, put them in the bins, put them in the tank, and where they get aerated water. Recovery time is within seconds. It is harmless. It's absolutely harmless. As I say, this is a technique that's used by the Environment Agency throughout the country, and they're fishing fish like salmon, which are far more sensitive than carp. So if it was going to do any harm at all, then it wouldn't be used. Yeah, I mean, carp in themselves are notorious for bathing in the sun. The water was shallow, but of sufficient depth for the carp to be to be comfortable, to not be stressed. They will regularly move into shallow areas with their back out of the water, and then move back into the deeper areas. And that's a common thing. That's a common thing that fish like carp do all the time, whether it be in a gravel pit or a pond like this.
Rebuilding the badly eroded banks used the technique of pushing upright poles into the silt and the underlaying clay, then interweaving these uprights with cut hazel. Attached to the back of these woven walls is a black geotextile sheet. The properties of this textile is that water will pass through, but not solids such as gravel, earth or silt. The space between this textile and the eroded bank is then backfilled with a suitable material such as earth, gravel, rocks or silt. This infill is then planted with shrubs, grass or aquatic plants, which in time the roots will grow and bind the whole construction together. The hazel wicker fencing will last a considerable time, particularly if submerged in water. Estimates I have been given are between 10 to 20 years. Here the technique is different from the system used for eroded banks, but still using the same materials with the addition of cores and faggots. Here the diagram shows the technique used for building the marginal edges and islands. Core is the fibrous material found between the hard internal shell and the outer coat of a coconut. Core is free of bacteria, fungal spores and produces good results without any environmental damage. The fibre is preformed into rolls 3 meters in length. This is held together with a synthetic multi-strand fibre in a 50mm diamond mesh. The ones used here in the pond are shipped in from Sri Lanka. When they arrive at AGA Group in Norfolk, they are placed in greenhouses while aquatic plants are planted in them and allowed to take root and start maturing before transporting to the site of use. Faggots are bundles of twigs tied together. in this instance hazel. In one of the earlier surveys, it had been decided that the old spillway needed replacing. The old one was demolished, and over a period of 2 to 3 weeks a new one was built. This involved a lot of upheaval, thumping and banging and pouring of concrete in the local area. But, as elsewhere during the project, care was taken of the wildlife, and they did not seem at all concerned by the disruption. During the project, I saw as many as 30, if not more, ducklings born, along with many moorhen and coot babes as well. In fact, the moorhens were quite amusing, as the workmen would go off for a tea break, and within 5 minutes a moorhen would start trying to build a nest on the unfinished work. The herons stayed throughout the project. Ducks take 25 to 35 days to incubate their eggs, and within 2 weeks of the project being completed, one mother duck was swimming around with 10 ducklings following her. Two new wildfowl interaction areas were constructed, one on each side of the pond. The method of construction was to drive stakes into the bed of the pond, then using a geotextile sheeting that was pocketed, slide this over the stakes. Here it was backfilled with earth rather than silt. Another sheet of material was laid over the top of the earth, and then a thin layer of gravel on top of that. The wildfowl soon realised the purpose of these new constructions. Nearby, in the corner of the pond, the bank level was raised also. The channel here at the back of the island required major dredging. Even before the work on the pond, when water levels were normal, it was dried out most of the time. Another major area of work was up where the Decoy stream came into the park. While this was going on, care was taken with the wildlife in the area, who in fact did not seem at all concerned by the disruption. Here, new marginal edges were created along the length of the wider part of the stream. Desilting was also carried out along its length. At the stream's entrance to the park, an extra pipe to increase the flow of water was installed under the footpath. In the meadow adjacent to the stream, a series of interlinked ponds were created. One of these ponds was a reed bed. In the stream, an oil boom was installed, which has proved very effective in preventing diesel, petrol and oil from entering the pond. The last week of work consisted of tidying things up and finishing off individual parts of the project, getting the site ready for the official reopening on Sunday the 26th of June 2011. Marginal edge planting of aquatic plants and grasses were also completed. Wire netting fences were erected around the new planting areas to protect it while it established itself. The ducks were rather partial to the young plants. Although the Canadian geese had departed from the pond a few weeks earlier, it was feared they would be back once the water level was back up to its normal height. This mesh fencing will remain in place for anything between 6 months and 2 years. Here on the 23rd of June, AGA started moving off-site back to their base in Norfolk. By the late afternoon of the next day, they had departed. The Sunday morning dawned, welcoming in a bright blue, cloudless sky with brilliant sunshine. A perfect day for the celebration of the completion of the Decoy Pond Enhancement project. Over 100 invited guests attended, and that was increased by many other visitors to the park that day. The ribbon cutting duties was to be performed by Councillor Mike Thompson, the Deputy Mayor of Eastbourne. In addition, there were several other members of the council, along with council officials who'd been involved with the project. Stephen Lloyd, our Member of Parliament for Eastbourne and Willingdon, was also in attendance.
Thank goodness now the pond has been rebuilt, regenerated, and it will be there to protect wildfowl, protect what we all love and our wonderful park. So all I can say, well done the Friends, well done Sandy and the team, well done everybody involved, and well done Hugh, the man who got the grant and when they're going to exist, which is brilliant. We'd like to thank you very much all for coming, and we're going to cut the tape. Here we go.
Mike, you're from OHES and you've been actually running this project on behalf of Eastbourne Borough Council, having won the contract. How are you pleased about the outcome?
We're delighted. We're absolutely delighted. I think the initial transformation is there for all to see, and I think that given a few months over the summer with a bit of sunshine and wet, we'll see all the plants that we put in growing up really nicely and sort of finishing the effect off, really.
Throughout the course of the project, any funny stories or occurrences?
Well, we had a couple of interesting moments throughout. I think a couple of issues where, because of the water levels being quite low during the initial dredging work, I think there were one or two instances where the public got a bit concerned about the fish, and we monitored the situation fairly closely with oxygen meters and all the rest, and looking at their behaviour, and I think a couple of difficult issues that cropped up with that, but I think we resolved it, and as you can see, the end result is good, and the fish that are still in the pond are quite happy. So.
Yeah. Well, you've certainly had remarkable weather for it. A couple of 3 days of rain, and I think the workers were quite pleased with that, actually, to cool down. At the moment we've got wire netting around protecting all the fresh planting and that. How long is that going to stay with us?
We're going to have the netting on for this growing season, and what we've recommended to the council is that they keep it on part way through the next growing season as well. And the reason for that really is to give the plants the best chance of success, really. Obviously the birds will take quite a bit of interest in the new plants that are there. They obviously graze on the plants, and when plants first go in, they're susceptible to being uprooted. So really it's just to keep the pressure off the plants, to give them the best chance of establishment, and once the root systems are established, then the netting can come off, and obviously the habitat's there for the birds to use. That's really the aim.
Right, your company's overseen the whole project. Do you have an ongoing thing on the park, or is that the end of the job as far as your company's concerned?
Well, the physical work is complete, and we'll remain in touch with the council on how things are developing. And obviously, if the planting fails, we're committed to coming back and replacing anything that's failed through. I think we're really pleased. It's been a pleasure working down here. It's a lovely park. As you say, we've had the weather for it, and it's been a really enjoyable job, and it's great to meet the local folks and chat with them about what's been going on. I'm sure the public have enjoyed seeing the diggers moving around and the planting going on. So.
With me now is Jeff Collard of Eastbourne Borough Council, Senior Head of Department. Jeff, you've been watching this project no doubt very closely. What's your overall impression of it?
I think it's absolutely fantastic. I'm really blown apart by today and what I've seen. Tremendous project indeed, and wonderful to see so many people enjoying it now that it's finished. In terms of what I think it's offered the lake, I think we've actually managed to improve the biodiversity no end with what we've done. And I understand that sticklebacks are already flowing into the top ponds, which is a first, I believe. I think the other point I'd like to make about today is that it's a great example of partnership working, because we couldn't have done this without the Friends of Hampton Park, and we've worked together, the Friends raising an awful lot of money and making that very important successful lottery bid, and the council putting in some of it as well, and together we've managed to create this wonderful scene behind us today.
Right, with me now Stephen Lloyd, our MP, who's come down today to the opening of the park. Very pleased to have a few words with you. What's your opinion of the whole overall job, Stephen?
Well, I think it's fantastic. This has been going on for a long time, and to be perfectly honest, I think the people who deserve the most credit are the Friends of Hampton Park. I mean, they've really been pushing at this for years. I'm very grateful that the big lotteries coughed up the money, but I do want to make it very clear that in my judgment, if it wasn't for the Friends of Hampton Park, frankly, I don't think it would ever have happened. I'm glad the council were there, and I'm glad they were supportive, and I'm glad the lottery money, but the people I really want to thank are the Friends. And look at that now. In a few years' time, that's going to look even more gorgeous than it currently is. You've got a lovely bright day. It's absolutely packed. I've had a super ice cream. Through the summer, everyone, come down to the park. It's looking lovely, and the pond is just going to be superb in a few years' time. It really is.
Right, with me now is Mike Thompson, who's been a councillor in Eastbourne for 16 years, and he's currently the Deputy Mayor. Mike, you've been watching this from the start. You know the park of old. What's your feelings about the outcome of this project?
I'm very happy with the outcome of the project. This should mean that the pond will last in its current state for another 30 to 40 years before silt needs to be removed again. I'm very pleased to see there's another island on the pond, creates more interest.
Well, that was a way to get rid of some of the silt, I think.
It certainly was indeed, but the whole thing has proven to be a very interesting exercise because there are things that we lay people would not know that the experts have brought to us. We spent the last 7.5 years since the project was conceived researching, finding out about silt, finding out about the dam, and eventually in 2008 we went out to contract. The present people got the job, and the result is, as we will see today, a beautiful area for a lovely park.
With me now is Sandy, Chairman of the Friends of the Hampden Park. You've been involved in this project right from the very outset. Would you like to give me a brief outline of all the trials and tribulations getting to today?
It's taken a long time for us to put this money together, working with the council towards raising funds. The people of Eastbourne have contributed to our pond appeal. We've had donations of sometimes £500 anonymously from people specifically to get this pond done. And I think we've hopefully done a magnificent job of the Friends for the people of Eastbourne to get Hampden Park looking as lovely as it does today.
I think we must mention the Friends of Hampden Park.
Obviously, our members donate throughout the year and every year, but that's a personal opinion. What we wanted to do was have a basis of people who are really interested in the park, and we just make a nominal £5 charge.
Any final comments you'd like to make?
Well, didn't we do good with the weather?
Certainly.
Haven't we had a magnificent turnout of friends and relations? We've got past councillors, present councillors, past mayors. We've got people from the Eastbourne Cabinet, from the leaders of the council down through to the officers handling these different things. We've got members of the public who've been involved from the beginning. We've got old committee members. We had a guest list in excess of 100 people that were coming to this event today, and I think they've done splendidly to come out and give us their support.